Well, hello there, everyone. It's Wacky Wednesday. Hopefully, doing outstanding. Today is December 28th, year 2022. Countdown to New Year's Eve and countdown to hopefully my live stream tonight at 7 p.m. I'm going to try to talk about wealth a little bit. It's been a crazy week for me, busy days. Going to be another busy day for me today, but that's okay. I want everyone to stop complaining. I'll try to do the same. But anyway, I am Mazske Finance. I'm not a financial advisor, not a CPA, not an attorney. So anyway, stop complaining, right? Who said that? A lot of people say that. But I read a headline, Charlie Munger. I think the article was on CNBC. I think I never saw it. Charlie Munger, do you know who he is? I think he's like 98 years old. Him and Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, they're guys' buddies. They run the company. But anyway, he's a smart guy. But he was born, I think he said, in 1930-ish or something like that. And he said back then a lot of people struggled in life. They didn't have a lot. And let's think about this for just a second. All right? Think about 100 years ago. Why do I pick 100 years ago? I could say 150 years ago. But let's just say 100 years ago. 100 years ago was the year 1922, right? There are people alive right now that were alive in 1922. Not a lot of them. You probably don't, you may or may not know anybody of that age, but they'd be 100 years old. Depends on when their birthday is. But if you could talk to them, they would probably tell you from their earliest memory, life was different then than it is now. How is it different? And this is why everybody needs to stop complaining. Right now we have it. Yes, we have some issues in the world. Yes, we do. I don't disagree with that. All right. But we have it better now, I dare say, than almost any other time in history. Why would I say that? Let's just think about, first of all, my life. Well, then we'll go back 100 years. I was born in the late 60s. So my earliest memory is probably very late 60s, early 70s. It was in the 80s when, well, I'll tell you this. I have a memory from the 70s when we had a black and white TV and we got our first color TV. And it was like, wow, look at that. It's in color. It was amazing. I have another memory. I was probably 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere in there, when we got our first microwave. It was either Thanksgiving or Christmas. It could have been Christmas. It might have been Thanksgiving. I don't know. But I remember we had our meal that day. The turkey, the mashed potatoes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I had gone out that evening with buddies or something, whatever I did. Maybe I went to a neighbor's house. When I came back, I remember, say it was 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, whatever time it was, I was hungry. I was a teenager. I was growing. I was hungry. And I remember I took the dishes of food, leftovers out of the fridge, put them on a plate, put them in the microwave, warmed it up, and I ate it. And I was like, this is magical. And then I was trying to remember recently, how would I have heated those leftovers pre-microwave? I don't think I would have. If I was like really, really hungry, I probably would eat something cold. But I'm not going to turn the oven on and heat the oven up because then it takes a long time, and it's not worth it. So I would have either gone to bed hungry or just eaten something cold or something like that. Life would have been different. And that's just one example. Just another example of my life. 1995, I bought my first computer. Windows 95, if you're my age, roughly, plus or minus, you might remember the media blitz from Windows. Windows 95 was rolling out, and I finally gave in because I had used computers in my job. Prior to that, I was an electronics technician in the Navy. I used computers, worked on computers, but I finally bought one. And I think, if I remember right, it was from Gateway, but if I remember right, the hard drive was 100 megabytes. This phone, I think, and that's hard drive is the storage. This phone, I believe, I'm not positive, I think it's like 512 megabytes. This little teeny tiny skinny phone I'm recording on. Okay? My computer back then was a big box with a big monitor. I mean, it wasn't that big where you see it at, but it went back far. Okay? There was no smartphone, there was no cell phone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? That's just in my generation. I'm not 100 years old, even though you may think I am. So let's go back to 1922. The Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, they invented the first airplane. There's a book by, I forget the guy's name, I read it. It's a fascinating book. When they first flew just a little short distance, you would think it would have made the headlines everywhere. It didn't. people were like, whatever. They didn't know. They didn't care. No one's going to fly. It's impossible. Why are they doing this? They're silly boys. What are they doing? It took a little bit of time to catch on, like years. But by 1922, airplanes were out. Okay. But I dare say, everybody and their brother wasn't flying to trips to Hawaii or Florida or California or South America, Central America, some Caribbean island. They weren't doing that. The military had some airplanes. Yes, there are other folks with money who might have flown a little bit. I don't know exactly when. I didn't look up when people really started flying, but the general population, no. I dare say in 1922, majority of people, let's say the United States, probably the world, did not have running water, did not have electricity in their house, maybe didn't even have water in their house per se. Maybe they had a pump outside. I remember one of my grandparents going to their house as a kid. They had a pump outside. You had to pump a handle to get the water to come out. They had an outhouse down below. I remember using that outhouse and quite a few other outhouses in my, let's say in the 70s. I don't know if it led into the 80s with me using one, but yeah, I think it did. I think it might led into the 90s with me using an outhouse somewhere, maybe late 80s, maybe not by 1990. Okay, but if you're younger than me by 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're like, an outhouse? You know what a porta potty is? An outhouse was usually a wooden shack that, at least the ones I used, that might have had a hole. Maybe they had a toilet seat on top of the hole, maybe not. There'd always be spiders up there. It'd be cold or it'd be hot. It was outside. You had to go outside your house to go to it. What do you do now? Every person watching this probably has a toilet and a sink and a shower and a bathtub. Maybe not a bathtub. In there, wherever you're living at. Okay? We are living longer than ever. Medical advances. Back in 1922, I don't think too many people got any vaccines at all. Measles, smallpox, whooping cough, tuberculosis, hepatitis, maybe, I don't know. But other things, I can't remember exactly when vaccines came out. I think it might have been the 1800s the first vaccine came out. But in 1922, I don't think the general population was getting any vaccine. By the time I was born, guess what? Vaccines were required for me to go to kindergarten. This would have been very early 1970s. We had a little yellow card. All your vaccines got one in there. You had to show that card. When I joined the Navy, I had to show that card. Okay? This whole thing now, it's like, oh, you're invading my rights, my privacy. You know, you can't make this mandatory. It's been mandatory for a lot of years. Okay? And it's helped our health. We're living longer than ever. As well, I grew up in a firefighter's house. My dad was a firefighter. We had scanners. He had scanners in the house. I heard scanners for many, many years, dispatchers talking. But I would hear terminology used back then that's not used now. And the terminology was 40-some-year-old male dies of a massive heart attack. 30-some-year-old male dies of a massive heart attack. You don't hear about many 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70-year-old males or females nowadays dying of massive heart attacks. Yes, people still have heart attacks some, but not like they used to. Used to be, if you got cancer, it was a death sentence. You're going to die. Now, a lot of cancers have cures and treatments, and they go into remission. They fix people better than ever. When I was in the Navy and stationed in the country of Panama, for me to call the United States, I had to call collect, but it was over $1 a minute. Now, I can use this and use an app called WhatsApp to communicate with people literally around the world. I could FaceTime or call, video calls all around the world almost for free. Maybe I'm paying for internet service, or maybe I'm paying for my Wi-Fi, but it's basically for free. Or I could be on public Wi-Fi maybe, and I'm using WhatsApp maybe, I don't know. But the technology in this little phone up here that I'm using to record, back when I was a kid and getting into the mid 70s maybe, you had big video cameras that some wealthier type families might have. You have bigger cameras. Now, this phone up here, it's a calculator, it's a recorder, it's a computer, it's a GPS. I can drive all the way from South Florida to Alaska using this phone to give me directions. I can get on the internet. What's the internet? The World Wide Web. I can communicate with people all around the world. I can check my email. I have apps to get into my bank account, various bank accounts. I have apps to get discounts at the gas station, McDonald's. I use an app called Upside. Save money on gas. It's on this phone. Okay? And on and on and on. And many more ways. Almost all of us, if we want to travel right now, we can go somewhere. You go back 100 years, not everybody had a car. People walked a lot more than they walk now. People had bikes, I think. There's trains, but I don't know, it depends on where you lived at. If you were out in the boonies, that was your life, I think. You were out in the boonies. You know, have you experienced having no electricity? Sure you have, your power's gone out, right? But have you experienced living that as your life? Have you experienced not having running water? I didn't grow up like that, but I spent time at my one grandparent's house. I spent time at both grandparents' house. And my one grandparent did not have running water in the house for a period of time, did not have a toilet in the house. They had a pot at nighttime. Some young kid drank too much and needed to get up. There was a pot in the house we could use. The outhouse was in the backyard. Life was different back then. Life was different. It is so much better now. We can cool our house when it's hot. There's air conditioning. We can heat our house when it's cold. We're not burning fires in our house for the most part with smoke, coming out. Cars are safer. We wear seatbelts when we're in a car. We have airbags in cars. They're computerized. Cars will even brake so you don't run into somebody in front of you if you got the right car. Technology, it's enhancing our lives in many ways. And yet, so many people complain about so many different things. So many people get caught up in politics. Politicians have too much power, number one. And what people don't realize, people pick sides, but they're both the same. They both spend money. They're both the same. And just the sheep out there don't realize this. The masses out there don't realize we have it a lot better now than folks in the past. We live a lot longer now. There's less violence in the world, but yet there's still violence. There's gun violence. There wasn't gun violence before like there is now, but life was rough before. There's more violence now in a different way. But we've trended in the correct direction. Over the last 100 years, our quality of life, let's say, is trending upward. It does seem like there's forces at work right now that's trying to bring us back down. Like there's an article I saw, domestic terrorism, they're targeting electrical grid systems now. Why? Why are they doing this? Why do they want us to take us backwards? I don't get it. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. But remember, 7 p.m. tonight, unless I get distracted and something happens, but at 7 p.m. tonight, I'm planning to have a live stream. I've done live streams before. I'll try to do one again. I'll try to figure out how to do it. I've been busy. I'm going to try to figure out how to do it where I don't have to look at my phone like that to get comments, to read comments. I'm going to try to, I think if I have YouTube on my tablet and log out and then pull up my page, I think then I could read the comments on my tablet, so I'm not like doing that in front of the phone. What do you think? Some of you tech whizzes, what do you think? So with that being said, Maskey's gonna sign out, so have a great day. See you.